Look, I've been in the pawn business a long time. People bring all sorts of things through my door. Gold, jewelry, weird historical artifacts, you name it. But one thing always gets my attention: old coins. A coin isn't just a piece of metal you use to buy a soda. It's a piece of history you can hold in your hand. Every little scratch, every worn-down face, it tells a story. It tells you about the king who minted it, the economy it was used in, and the everyday people who carried it in their pockets. It's like a time capsule, a direct link to the past. Think about it. Before credit cards, before paper money was even a big deal, coins were everything. They were how you paid for your food, your house, your tools. The metal in that coin, especially silver, had real, tangible value. For a country like Norway, with its long history of Vikings, kings, and dramatic changes, their coins are a roadmap through their entire story. For an American, it's a window into a world that's very different from our own, but you see the same themes: power, money, and leaving your mark on history. That's what makes this stuff so cool. Collecting coins is a huge hobby for a reason. Some people do it for the thrill of the hunt, trying to find that one super rare piece to complete their collection. Others love the history, learning about the rulers and the events behind each coin. And then there are guys like me, who see it as an investment. Silver is a precious metal, and its value goes up and down. A rare coin from a specific time and place can be worth a whole lot more than just its silver content. It's a fascinating world, and Norwegian silver coins are a perfect example of this. So, we're going to take a journey. We'll go all the way back to the Viking Age, when the first coins were being hammered out in Norway. We'll look at how they changed, from tiny silver pennies to big, heavy dollars called spesidelers. We'll talk about the kings, the designs, and why these little metal discs were so important to the people of Norway. You might not be able to spend them at the store today, but believe me, the value they hold in history is off the charts. Let's dive in. Alright, let's turn the clock way back. We're talking over 1,000 years ago, around the year 995. This is the Viking Age. The guy in charge is a king named Olav Tryggvason. Now, Olav had traveled around. He'd seen how things were done in other parts of Europe, especially in England. They had a standardized coinage system, and he thought, hey, we need to get in on this. So, he minted the very first coins in Norway. These weren't big, fancy pieces. They were small silver coins called penninger, or pennies. They were pretty much direct copies of the English pennies of the time. These first pennies were simple. On one side, you had a portrait of the king. It was a crude design, not a perfect photograph, but it was meant to show everyone who was in charge. On the other side, you usually had a cross. This was important because it showed that Norway was becoming a Christian kingdom. The coins were a form of propaganda, spreading the message of the king's power in the new religion. They were struck in silver, which was the go-to metal for money because it was valuable and durable. These coins weren't just for buying things, they were a symbol of a new, organized Norway. Now, after Olav Tryggvason, another famous king, Olav Haraldsson, later known as Saint Olav, the patron saint of Norway, also minted his own coins. His pennies continued the tradition, but the quality and consistency could be all over the place. You have to remember, this was before modern machinery. Each coin die was carved by hand, and the coins were struck with a hammer. This means you find a lot of variations. Some coins are off-center, some have weird errors. To a collector, those little mistakes can sometimes make a coin even more valuable. For the next few centuries, the silver penny was the main coin in Norway. Its design and silver content changed depending on who was king and the state of the kingdom's economy. Sometimes, when times were tough and the king needed more money, the amount of silver in each coin would go down. This is a classic story you see in the history of money everywhere. But for Norway, these early silver pennies were a massive step. They moved the country away from a simple barter system and towards a modern money-based economy. It all started with one king who saw a good idea and brought it home. As we move forward in time, past the Middle Ages, things in Norway started to change. By the 1500s, the old penny system just wasn't cutting it anymore. Trade was growing, and people needed different denominations of coins for different kinds of transactions. You can't buy a ship with a pocket full of pennies. This is when Norway, which was in a union with Denmark at the time, introduced a new system. A key coin in this new system was the skilling. The skilling was a silver coin. bigger than the old pennies, and it became a workhorse of the Norwegian economy for centuries. The skilling came in several sizes. You had the 1 skilling coin, which was small, but then you had larger silver coins worth 2, 4, 8, and 24 skilling. This was a huge deal. For the first time, Norway had a truly functional coinage system with multiple denominations. It's like going from only having dollar bills to suddenly having quarters, dimes, and nickels. It makes daily life so much easier. The 24 skilling piece, for example, was a substantial silver coin, often called an ort, and it was a quarter of the value of the big silver dollar of the time. The designs on these skilling coins are really interesting, because Norway was in a union with Denmark. The coins often featured the monogram or portrait of the Danish Norwegian king. You'll see the names of kings like Christian IV or Frederick III. On the other side, you'd often find the Norwegian lion holding an axe. This was a powerful symbol. Even though they were ruled by a Danish king, the Norwegians made sure to put their own national symbol on their money. It was a way of saying, we are still Norway. The coins were a little piece of national identity in people's pockets. These coins were used for everything. A farmer might use a few 1 skilling coins to buy seeds at the market, while a merchant might use a bag of 24 skilling coins to pay for a shipment of timber. The silver content was crucial. People trusted these coins because they were made of a precious metal. However, just like with the old pennies, the amount of silver could change. During wars or economic crises, the government would sometimes issue skilling coins with less silver, which could cause a lot of problems. But for about 350 years, the skilling was the backbone of Norwegian currency. Now, we get to the big one. If you're a serious collector of world coins, you know about the large silver crowns, the dollar-sized coins that were the standard for international trade. In America, we had the silver dollar. In Mexico, the 8 reals. And in Norway, they had the spesidaler. This was the king of Norwegian coins for a long time. Introduced in the 16th century, but becoming standardized later, the spesidaler was a large, heavy silver coin that packed a serious punch. It was the coin of merchants, landowners, and the wealthy. This wasn't something you used to buy a loaf of bread. This was for major transactions. The spekudaler was based on the German thaler, which is actually where the word dollar comes from. It was a big coin, typically containing around 25 grams of pure silver. That's a lot of metal. Its value was set at 96 skilling, and later 120 skilling, so you can see how it sat at the top of the monetary system. When a ship captain from Norway sailed to another country to trade, he wasn't carrying sacks of tiny coins, he was carrying chests of spesedalers. Their high, consistent silver content made them trusted all over Europe. They were the universal language of money. The designs on the spesedalers are often beautiful. They usually featured a detailed portrait of the reigning Danish-Norwegian king. These weren't the simple stick figures of the Viking Age. These were masterful, artistic portraits. The king would be shown in armor or royal robes, looking powerful and majestic. The back of the coin would typically feature a coat of arms, often the royal coat of arms of the dual monarchy. These coins were as much about projecting royal power and prestige as they were about economics. They were a statement piece. The spesidaler remained Norway's main currency unit until 1875. For hundreds of years, it was the benchmark of value in the Norwegian economy. Contracts were written in spesedalers, land was valued in spesedalers, and fortunes were counted in spesedalers. Even after Norway broke from Denmark in 1814 and entered a new union with Sweden, they kept the spekedaler. They just put the portrait of the Swedish Norwegian king on it instead. The coin was too important to their economy to just get rid of. It was a symbol of stability and wealth, a true silver giant in the history of currency. One of the things I love about coins is how they act like a tiny art gallery. You can really see artistic styles change over the centuries, just by looking at the money. In Norway, this is incredibly clear. The earliest Viking pennies were very basic, almost symbolic. The portrait of the king was more of an idea than a likeness. The tools were simple, and the artists, or die cutters, were probably just learning their craft. The goal was functionality. Make a coin that says, "This is money from the king." The art part wasn't the main focus. Fast forward to the era of the skilling and spekedaler, from the 17th to the 19th centuries. The art explodes. This was the time of the Baroque and Rococo periods in Europe, and you can see it on the coins. The portraits of the kings become incredibly detailed and lifelike. they have flowing hair, intricate lace collars, and stern, powerful expressions. The lettering becomes more ornate and stylized. The coats of arms on the reverse are complex and full of symbolism. These coins were designed by master engravers, and they were meant to impress. They were a reflection of the wealth and sophistication of the monarchy. Then, as we move into the 19th century, the style changes again. Under the union with Sweden, the kings like Karl Johan adopted a more neoclassical style. This style was inspired by ancient Greece and Rome. The portraits become more stoic and heroic, like Roman emperors. The designs are cleaner, more ordered, and less flamboyant than the Baroque era. You see a lot of laurel wreaths and sharp, clear lines. This change in art reflected a change in thinking. It was about order, reason, and an idealized vision of monarchy, a shift from the divine right of kings to a more modern constitutional role. Every detail on these coins tells a story about the period. The type of crown the king is wearing, the armor he is on, or the way his hair is styled, it all places the coin in a specific moment in time. For example, during the Napoleonic Wars, things got tough economically. The silver content in coins often dropped, and sometimes they had to issue emergency money made of copper. But when peace and prosperity returned, the silver coins came back, bigger and better than ever. The art on the coin was a barometer for the health and confidence of the kingdom. The year 1814 was a huge turning point for Norway. After centuries under Danish rule, the country got its own constitution. It was a moment of intense national pride. However, they were quickly forced into a new union, this time with Sweden. The King of Sweden was now also the King of Norway. This created a really interesting situation for their money. Norway wanted to show its new status as a separate kingdom with its own government, and coins were the perfect way to do it. They didn't want to just use Swedish money. So while they shared a king with Sweden, Norway continued to mint its own coins, the spekkedollar and the skilling. The big difference was the portrait on the front. Instead of the Danish king, it now featured the Swedish king, like Karl XIV Johan or Oscar I. But here's the important part. The back of the coins was pure Norwegian. They prominently displayed the crown Norwegian coat of arms, the lion with the axe. The inscriptions were also specific to Norway, often saying King of Norway and Sweden and stating the coin's value in the Norwegian currency system. This was a delicate balancing act. The coins had to acknowledge the Swedish king, but they screamed, "We are Norway." For the average person, using a coin that had the Norwegian lion on it was a daily reminder of their country's unique identity within the Union. It was a subtle but powerful political statement. The coins from this period, from 1814 to 1905, are a fascinating chapter in the nation's history. They represent a country that was self-governing in many ways, but still tied to another crown. Collectors love these coins for that very reason. This period also saw some beautiful coin designs. The half spekkedollar and spekkedollar coins minted under King Oscar I are particularly well regarded for their artistic quality. The portrait of the king is very refined, and the Norwegian lion on the reverse is strong and detailed. These coins were struck at the Kongsberg Mint in Norway, which had been making the country's coins for centuries. Having their own mint was another point of pride. It meant they controlled their own money supply, a key part of being a nation. These coins weren't just currency, they were symbols of a long struggle for independence. By the 1870s, the world was changing fast. The old systems of skillings and spekkedollars, based on the weight of silver, were becoming outdated. Major countries were forming monetary unions to make trade easier. So, in 1875, Norway made a huge change. They joined the Scandinavian Monetary Union with Denmark and Sweden. To do this, they had to ditch the spekkedollar and adopt a new currency, the krone, which means crown. The krone was divided into 100 øre. This was a decimal system, just like the US dollar being divided into 100 cents. It was way simpler and more modern. Under this new system, Norway issued a whole new set of beautiful silver coins. You had the 10 øre, 25 øre, 50 øre, 1 krone, and 2 kroner coins, all minted in silver. The designs were fantastic. The smaller coins often featured the Norwegian coat of arms, the lion, surrounded by symbols of the kingdom. The larger 1 krone and 2 kroner coins had the portrait of the king, who was still Oscar II of Sweden and Norway. the silver content was standardized across the 3 Scandinavian countries, so a Norwegian 1 krone coin had the same value and silver content as a Danish or Swedish one. Then came the biggest moment in modern Norwegian history, 1905. Norway peacefully dissolved the union with Sweden and became a fully independent kingdom. They chose a Danish prince to be their new king, and he took the name Håkon VII. This called for new coins. The first coins of independent Norway were a huge deal. The silver 1 krone and 2 kroner coins issued from 1908 onwards featured the portrait of King Håkon VII. On the back, it no longer said King of Sweden and Norway, it was just Norway. This was the money of a free country. These silver krone coins were the standard for decades. They circulated through World War I and into the 1920s and 30s. However, like in the rest of the world, the role of silver in circulating coinage started to decline. The Great Depression and World War II put a huge strain on economies everywhere. Silver became too valuable to use in everyday coins. After World War II, Norway, like the United States, switched to using cheaper metals like copper nickel for its circulating coins. The era of carrying real silver in your pocket for daily use was coming to an end. Every collector dreams of finding that one rare coin, the one that makes everyone else jealous. In my business, we call them holy grails. For Norwegian coins, there are definitely a few that stand out. These are the coins that are incredibly hard to find, either because very few were made or because something special happened to them. They're the kind of thing that could walk into my shop and make my day. One of the most famous is the 1628 specie from the Kongsberg Mint. This was the very first specie minted at Kongsberg, which was a brand new silver mine at the time. It's a historically important coin, and not many have survived. Another group of rare coins are the emergency issues. During wartime, especially the Napoleonic Wars in the early 1800s, silver was scarce. The government had to get creative. They sometimes took old coins, or even foreign coins, and stamped them with a new value. These counterstamped coins are often very rare because it was a temporary solution. Finding a Danish coin with a small Norwegian lion stamped on it is a really cool piece of history. It tells a story of desperation and ingenuity. These pieces are often unique and highly sought after by specialists. The Gimsøy hoard is a legendary story among collectors. In 1840, a massive hoard of over 3,000 silver coins from the Viking Age was found on the Gimsøy farm. Most of these coins were Olav Tryggvason pennies, the very first coins of Norway. Before this find, only a handful of these coins were known to exist. This discovery completely rewrote the book on early Norwegian coinage. While most of the hoard went to museums, some of the coins eventually made their way into private collections. Owning a coin from this famous hoard is like owning a piece of a legend. Sometimes rarity comes from a mistake. A coin struck with the wrong die, or a coin with a spelling error in the king's motto. These are called error coins. While they were mistakes at the time, today they can be incredibly valuable because they are one of a kind. For example, a 2 kroner coin from 1908, the first year of King Håkon VII's coins, might have a small die crack. To a serious collector, that's not damage. That's a unique variety that's worth a premium. You always have to know what you're looking for. One person's junk is another person's treasure, and in the coin world that's doubly true. So, what about today? If you go to Norway on vacation, your pocket change won't be made of silver. Like the US and pretty much every other country, Norway stopped using silver for its circulating coins many decades ago. The 1 krone and 20 kroner coins you'll get are made of copper nickel. The value of the metal is much lower than the face value of the coin. That's just how modern money works. The days of coins having intrinsic value based on their silver or gold content are long gone for everyday transactions. However, that doesn't mean Norway has forgotten its silver heritage. Far from it. The Royal Norwegian Mint still produces special commemorative coins made of silver for collectors. These coins celebrate important national events, anniversaries, or famous Norwegians. For example, they might issue a silver coin for the 200th anniversary of the Constitution, or to honor a famous explorer like Roald Amundsen. These coins are legal tender, but you'd never spend them. They are miniature works of art, minted in beautiful proof quality and sold as collector's items. They keep the tradition of silver coinage alive. For Norwegians, these old silver coins are a powerful link to their national story. A Viking penny represents the birth of their kingdom. A specie dollar with the Norwegian lion represents their long struggle for self-governance. A crone with King Haakon VII's portrait represents their final independence. These coins are displayed in museums, taught about in schools, and cherished by collectors. They are tangible artifacts of Norwegian history that have passed through the hands of generations. They're more than just money, they're part of the national identity. And for the rest of us, for an American collector or history buff, Norwegian silver coins offer an amazing story. They show how a small country navigated a complex history with powerful neighbors, always holding on to its own identity. The designs, the metals, the rulers, they all come together to tell a tale of resilience and pride. So next time you see an old, tarnished silver coin at a flea market or in a pawn shop, take a closer look. You never know. It might be a piece of Norwegian history, and every piece of history has a story, and every story has a price.